Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'll be showing you how to make this maxi button-up dress. It's a very casual dress, so stay tuned. So I'm gonna head to fold my fabric into 4 pieces, and as you can see, the fabric is not folded equally. Now I after folding it the first time and it now folded it the second time. Now the second time I make sure I didn't reach to the end. I gave a 3 inches allowance. This allowance is for the button flap. It will be folded in and used for the button flap. Now I'll be cutting the front side and the back side pieces together. Now for the neck piece, I'll be coming in the depth by 1 inch. This measurement is actually for the back piece. For the front, I'm still going to adjust it, and the width is going to be the length. Sorry. Sorry guys, the width is going to be 3 inches, and I'll be coming, that's 3 by 1 inch. Now this is actually for the back piece. Later I'm still going to come down a little bit for the front piece. So now I'm going to measure my shoulder. My shoulder is 8.5 inches. My shoulder is 17 inches divided by 2 is 8.5 inches. But then I'm also going to add 1 inch allowance, half inch sewing allowance, which is going to make it 9 inches. So this is me marking my shoulder. I also slanted the shoulder by half an inch. This is because I'm cutting directly on the fabric. So if I were to be using a pattern, I will come down by 1 inch, after which I'll add the allowance. But since I'm on the fabric, I am coming in by half an inch. Now I've gone ahead to mark out my bust line measurement / my armhole depth, which is 9 inches. This line is also going to serve as my bust line. Now from the bust line, I am going to come down by 8 inches, which is going to serve as my waist line. So I've gone ahead to mark that. Now from my waistline, I'm also going to come down by 8 inches, which is going to be my hip line. Now this is a long dress, so I'll be using the full length of this fabric, which is about 59 inches for this dress. So I wouldn't be showing you guys the full length. Now from the shoulder, I'm going to join the shoulder line to the bust line. Now I am going to measure half of that armhole line, which is 4.5 inches, and then I am going to come in by half an inch so that I can give it the curve. Now watch closely and see where I'll be starting my measurements from. Now for my bust line, I'll be measuring, my bust line is 44 inches divided by 4 is 11.5 inches plus 2 inches sewing allowance, so I'm going to be marking 13 inches. Watch closely and see where I'm placing my tape, where my tape measurement starts. So for my waist, I'll be dividing it by 4 plus 2 inches. My waist is 39 divided by 4 is 9.75 plus 2 inches, which is 11.75, but I'll be adding 2 inches, but I'll be approximating it to 12 inches. Now for my waist is 46 divided by 4 is 11.5 plus 2 inches, which makes it 13.5. Now I'll be joining those measurements that I've made. I'll be joining it to make the body shape, the body curve. Now I am going to draw the line from my hip line down to the bottom of this dress using a straight line. I'm just going to draw that line straight to the bottom of this dress. It's not going to be a fitted dress, so you don't have to bother to shape it, to shape the bottom part, to pencil it or anything. It's just a free shirt dress. Now after marking it, that's basically it for the cutting of this fabric. I am going to go ahead and cut out the body of this fabric, but before that I am going to make an adjustment to the neck. Remember that the first measurement we did was for the front part, was for the back part of the dress. Now we're going to go ahead and make adjustments for the front part, but first we're going to cut out the back neck piece. Now remember that for the back neck piece, we came down in depth by 1 inch. Now for the front side, we are going to come in again by 1.5 inches, making the front side 2.5 inches depth. Now the length is going to be the same thing. The only difference is the depth. So coming down by 1.5 inch again, I'm going to cover the neck and then cut it out. After which I'm going to cut out this dress. So guys, how has this rainy season been treating you guys? Honestly, it has been terrible on me. Like, the cold is not even here. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and cut out this dress right now, and then after that we are going to cut out the sleeve of this dress. That's basically it. This is a very simple dress. Now I'm gonna head to fold my sleeve into 4 pieces. I also went ahead to draw a straight line, which is where I'll be starting my sleeve measurements. Now for my sleeve, I am going to mark out my elbow line for the sleeve, which is where I'll be placing my measurements for the elbow line, and then the full sleeve of this dress. This is going to be a 3/4 sleeve. I wanted to make it a long sleeve initially, but I opted for a 3/4. I'm not really a big fan of long sleeve. So the full sleeve of this dress is 18 inches, but I'm going to be marking 20 inches because 2 inches is going to be for the hemming allowance. I want to be able to fold this sleeve in properly to give it a full 1 inch fold. So that's why I added extra 2 inches. Now from the line I marked, which is going to be my starting point, I am going to mark out the armhole line. Remember that for the armhole we used 9 inches to cut it, but then I'm going to add in 2 inches allowance, so I'm marking 11 inches at the starting point of this armhole line. Now from that starting point I am going to be coming down by 4 inches. I'm going to mark that, and then from the folded edge I am going to come in by 3 inches. I'm just going to mark that. This is where the armhole is going to start curving down to the edge, so it's just me making a mark for it, so I'll know where to start. Sorry, this looking at the camera and I can see that this chalk didn't really show this very well. Anyways, I'm going to start placing my measurements now. For my sleeve is I'm dividing it by 2 inches and then adding 1 inch. Honestly, I've forgotten my sleeve measurements, so that's why I can't tell you guys here. So just measure your elbow line to whatever your elbow, round elbow to whatever you want, then add 1 inch sewing allowance to it. When you measure your elbow, you divide it by 2 and then add 1 inch sewing allowance to it. Now for my round sleeve, I also divided it by 2 and then added 1 inch to it. Now this is going to be a loose fitting sleeve, so make sure to add an allowance so that it will be loose on you. Normally shirt sleeves are not really that fitted, so it's all about your choice. If you want it to be very fitted, then do what works for you. So I've gone ahead to place the measurements for this sleeve, after which I'm going to now join all the measurements together and cut it out. Now remember that this fabric is folded into 4 pieces because we'll be cutting the 2 sleeves together. Now for the front side piece, remember we gave a 3 inches button allowance for it, for the button flap. So I went ahead to mark it so that I'll be able to easily fold it in. So right now I'm going to fold it in first by 1 inch and then also fold it again by another 1 inch. This is to be able to make the button flap. Just look at how I'm doing it. After folding it in, you can either iron it down and then sew it down, or you can just pin it down like me and sew it down. I think I pinned it down first before sewing it. Now I'll be doing that for the 2 front pieces. So fold it in first by 1 inch, fold it in again by another 1 inch to that place where the line has been marked. Pin it down and sew, or pin it down, iron and sew. So I'm going to do it from the neck of this dress down to the bottom of the dress. Do that for the both pieces of the front, and we'll be coming back. Now after doing that, I've gone ahead to sew it down. What I'm going to do next is that I am going to bring the back piece of this dress, and then I am going to join the back piece and the front piece at the shoulder. I'll be using 1/2 inch to join it at the shoulder, and after doing that I'm going to come back. Please do that for the 2 shoulders. Now after joining the shoulder, I'll go ahead and measure my round neck. This is so that you can be able to determine the measurements that we'll be using for the collar. This is going to be a collar dress, So it's also a good opportunity for you to learn how to make a collar shirt. It's basically a collar shirt dress. Anyways, my round neck is what did they give me here, Seth? My round neck is 19 inches, I think. Okay, 19.8 inches. So I'll be using 19.8 inches to cut out this collar. Honestly, guys, I'm sorry about how this clip turned out. I didn't place my phone very well to record. So that 19 inches, I am going to be folding it. English is not my first language. I'm going to be folding it in into two and then placing the measurement there. Now, first of all, this is going to be the collar stand. So the collar stand is going to be 1 inch. So I'll be marking out 1 inch for the collar stand. So after marking that 1 inch, I am going to be joining it together. Now at the edge of that collar stand, I'm going to just slant it in a little bit, just very little. This step is actually very optional. Now for the collar itself, from that collar standpoint, I'll be coming in by 1 inch. And for my collar is going to be 2 inches long at the edge, but then at the folded part, I am going to come up by 1.5 inches. This is because I want the collar to be a little bit slanted, which is basically the normal way to make a collar, but then it's also a matter of choice. So I'll be slanting it in and then joining the collar. Now to make that pointed edge that a collar usually has, from the edge there, I am going to come up by 1/2 inch and then join me from the bottom of the collar to that 1/2 inch point marked. Just watch what I'm doing, you get the drift. This is to give that collar that sharp pointed amount that it usually has. Now that's it for the collar. I'm going to cut it out right now. Now I'm gonna head to cut out my collar. My collar has been cut into 2 pieces. Now this is a gum stand, it needs an interface, so I did that for both the collar stand and the collar itself. Also notice that I added 1/2 inch sewing allowance round at the collar and also at the collar stand. Now we are going to start sewing this collar. I'm going to start sewing the edge of the collar, the sides of the collar and the top part of it. I'm going to sew it as close as possible to that interface that you're going to see. So I'll be sewing it round, but then I'm going to leave the bottom part of this collar open. After sewing it down, I'm going to also iron it. Just watch closely. Now I'm going ahead to stitch up my collar and then also iron it down. Now the next thing to do, I also left the bottom part open. So the next thing to do will be to bring one part of the collar stand. Then I'm going to place the bottom part of the collar itself to the top part of the collar stand. Now I also went ahead to mark the center points of my collar and my collar stand so that I'll be able to match the center points. Now after matching it together, I'm going to place the other part of the collar stand on this, and then I am going to stitch that up. I'm going to stitch up the side parts, the top parts and the other side parts, and I'm also going to leave the bottom open. Now watch closely. Now the parts where I'm pinning down, that is where I'll be sewing the sides of the collar stand, the top part of the collar stand. After doing that, I'm going to flip it inside out and then iron it down. Just the part that I'm pointing, that is the part where we'll be sewing. Now I'm going ahead to sew the collar down and the collar stand. I'm also going to iron it. I've already gone ahead to iron it. Now I'll be attaching this collar to my neckline of the shirt, to the neckline of the shirt. So I went ahead to mark the center points of the neckline. I gave it a notch so that I'll be able to know where it is. I also went ahead to give this collar a notch this at the center. So I'll be matching these two centers of the collar and the center of the neckline together. So I'm going to go ahead and pin it down first. Now watch closely. I'll be taking one piece of the collar, not the two pieces, one piece of it. Remember that the collar is still open at the bottom. The collar sign is still open. Now I'm going to match it to the center of the collar of the neckline, and then I am going to pin it down. Just watch closely what I'm doing in this video. So match the collars together and then pin it down. I already have a video on this channel that shows that is specifically detailed on how to make a collar, so you can go ahead and watch it. Now I've gone ahead to pin it down. I also sewed it in by 1/2 inch. Now after doing that, I am going to remember the other side of the collar which we didn't pin in with the dress. I am going to use it to cover the rough edges of this neckline and then sew it. So just watch what I'm doing. I'm really sorry guys about the angle from which this video was recorded. I need to be conscious of placing my phone camera, honestly. Now after pinning down the collar, I'm going to pin it round and then also sew it round. Now I've gone ahead to stitch up the collar to fold it in. Now you can see how neat it looks. So after that, the next thing to do will be to attach the sleeve. Now I'm going to notch the center of this sleeve and then I am going to attach it to the armhole. Now match the center of the sleeve to the center of the shoulder, armhole line, whatever, and then pin it down and then stitch it up. So I'll be pinning it round and then sewing it. I'll be doing that for both sleeves. I've gone ahead to do that right now. So what I did next is to place my body measurements. I did my sleeve measurements. Sew the sleeve in. Close up the sleeve by 1 inch, the 1 inch allowance that we gave, and then I'm also going to close up the dress, the size of the dress by 1 inch. So I've basically done that. I also went ahead to put a split on the sides. I forgot to show that earlier. So I just measured where I want my split to start and stop. So I did that. After doing that, I also hemmed the size of the splits, and that's basically it for this dress. I also went ahead to hem the bottom of the sleeve, and I went ahead to hem the sleeve, and also the bottom of the dress. And that's basically it for this tutorial. Honestly, guys, I'm so sorry. This voiceover is just everywhere. I've been having a cold and I am sick, so I just had to do this video and make sure that I post it today. Anyways, guys, that's basically it for the video and for this dress. I hope you like the comment, how it came out. Oh gosh, I am so sorry, guys. So please make sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more videos. So I also went ahead to add buttons to this dress. Mark it. My buttons are 3 inches apart. Also the buttonhole. Now I wasn't the one that did it, but that's just it for this dress. Thank you. Bye.